the Black Death, a whisper of oblivion etched across the parchments of time, a grim memento mori from a bygone era, a time when a horrifying plague stalked Europe, leaving a trail of unimaginable suffering in its wake. But why? Why did this plague, also known as the Bubonic plague, spread so rapidly across the continent, decimating populations and forever altering the course of history? Join me as we embark on a journey back to the 14th century, a time of bustling trade routes, crowded cities, and a world on the brink of transformation. We'll delve into the dark heart of this devastating pandemic, exploring the factors that allowed it to spread like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. We'll uncover the secrets of the plague's origins, its transmission, and the devastating impact it had on European society. We'll examine the social, economic, and political consequences of this cataclysmic event and explore how it shaped the world we live in today. So if you're ready, let's step back in time and unravel the mysteries of the Black Death. A tale of human resilience, despair, and the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. Imagine the year is 1347. Europe is a vibrant tapestry of kingdoms, duchies, and city-states, connected by a vast network of trade routes that crisscross the continent. Goods, ideas, and people flow freely along these arteries of commerce, fueling the economic and cultural growth of the region. But unbeknownst to the unsuspecting inhabitants of this bustling world, a silent killer lurks in the shadows, poised to strike at the very heart of European society. It all began in the distant lands of Central Asia, where a deadly bacterium, Yersinia pestis, was quietly incubating within the fleas that infested the black rats that scurried through the crowded cities and villages. These fleas, unwitting carriers of the plague, would soon embark on a journey westward, hitching a ride on the merchant ships that plied the Mediterranean Sea, carrying valuable cargoes of spices, silks, and other exotic goods. As these ships made their way from port to port, unloading their precious cargo, they also unleashed a deadly stowaway, the plague. The first recorded outbreak occurred in the Sicilian port of Messina, where sailors aboard a Genoese trading vessel succumbed to a mysterious illness that caused painful swellings in the groin and armpits, followed by high fever, delirium, and ultimately death. From Messina, the plague spread like wildfire, ravaging the coastal cities of Italy before making its way inland along the well-trodden trade routes that connected the major urban centers of Europe. By 1348, the plague had reached France, Spain, and England, leaving a trail of death and despair in its wake. Within a few short years, it had spread to every corner of the continent, claiming the lives of an estimated 25 million people, roughly 1/3 of Europe's population. The impact of the Black Death was devastating. Entire villages were wiped out, families torn apart, and the social fabric of Europe irrevocably altered. The plague spared no one, rich or poor, young or old. It struck down kings and peasants alike, leaving a gaping void in the hearts of those who survived. But why was this plague so virulent, so deadly, and why did it spread so rapidly across Europe? To answer these questions, we must delve deeper into the world of the 14th century, examining the social, economic, and environmental factors that created the perfect storm for the Black Death to unleash its fury. Imagine Europe in the 14th century as a tinderbox primed for disaster. Bustling trade routes served as superhighways for the plague, with infected fleas hitching a ride on merchant ships like malevolent hitchhikers. But these weren't the only hitchhikers. The Black Death thrived in a complex ecosystem of neglect, poverty, and ignorance. First and foremost, we must acknowledge the role of trade and travel. As we've seen, the plague arrived in Europe aboard merchant ships, carried by infected fleas that had made their home on the black rats that infested these vessels. These rats, cunning and adaptable creatures, quickly spread throughout the port cities, establishing new colonies and infecting the local rat populations. From there, the plague-carrying fleas jumped to humans, transmitting the deadly bacterium through their bites. The crowded and unsanitary conditions of medieval cities further exacerbated the spread of the plague. Narrow streets overflowing with refuse and human waste provided the perfect breeding ground for rats and fleas. People lived in close quarters, often sharing their homes with animals, increasing the risk of transmission. Hygiene was rudimentary at best, and knowledge of disease transmission was virtually non-existent. In addition to the physical conditions that facilitated the spread of the plague, there were also social and cultural factors that contributed to its rapid dissemination. The medieval worldview was deeply rooted in religion, and many people believed that the plague was a divine punishment for their sins. This fatalistic outlook led some to abandon all hope, while others turned to extreme religious practices in a desperate attempt to appease an angry God. The resulting social unrest and breakdown of order further hampered efforts to contain the plague as people fled infected areas, carrying the disease with them to new locations. Another factor that contributed to the rapid spread of the plague was the lack of effective medical treatment. Medieval physicians were ill-equipped to deal with such a virulent and mysterious illness, and their treatments often did more harm than good. Bloodletting, a common practice at the time, weakened patients and made them more susceptible to infection. Other remedies, such as applying crushed emeralds or arsenic to the buboes, were equally ineffective and dangerous. In the face of such a devastating and relentless foe, the people of Europe were powerless to stop the advance of the Black Death. It swept across the continent like a raging inferno, leaving a trail of death and destruction in its wake. But even in the darkest of times, the human spirit persevered. Some individuals risked their lives to care for the sick and dying, while others sought refuge in isolation, hoping to escape the plague's grasp. Communities came together to support one another, and new forms of social organization emerged in the wake of the devastation. The Black Death may have been a catastrophe of epic proportions, but it also served as a catalyst for change, ushering in a new era of scientific inquiry, social reform, and economic transformation. Labor shortages empowered the peasantry, leading to a decline in feudalism and the rise of a new merchant class. The demand for workers increased wages and improved working conditions for many, though this newfound prosperity was not evenly distributed. The Black Death also had a profound impact on art, literature, and religion. The omnipresence of death and the fragility of life became central themes in artistic and literary expression. Artists like the Florentine painter Giotto di Bondone incorporated themes of mortality and suffering into their works, while writers like Giovanni Boccaccio vividly depicted the plague's horrors in his Decameron. The danse macabre, a popular artistic motif, emerged during this time, portraying skeletons leading people of all social classes to their graves in a macabre dance of death. The plague's devastation shook people's faith in the church, leading some to question traditional religious beliefs and practices. This led to the rise of new religious movements such as the Flagellants, who believed that self-flagellation could appease God's wrath and end the pandemic. In the realm of medicine, the Black Death spurred a renewed interest in understanding the causes and spread of disease. Though it would be centuries before the true nature of the plague was discovered, the pandemic laid the groundwork for the development of modern epidemiology and public health practices. Perhaps most importantly, the Black Death taught us a valuable lesson about the interconnectedness of our world. The plague's rapid spread across continents demonstrated the power of global trade and travel to both enrich and endanger our lives. Today, as we face new challenges like climate change and emerging infectious diseases, we must remember the lessons of the Black Death. We must invest in public health infrastructure, promote global cooperation, and prioritize scientific research to mitigate the risks posed by future pandemics. The Black Death may be a distant memory, but its echoes continue to resonate in our world today. It serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of human life and the importance of working together to protect our shared future. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the dark heart of the Black Death. I hope this exploration has shed light on the complex factors that contributed to this devastating pandemic and the enduring legacy it left behind. If you found this video informative and thought-provoking, please consider subscribing to our channel for more fascinating historical content. And don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with your friends and family. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.